Hello and welcome to the ShareLife Speaker Series. I'm Krista Matrenko from the ShareLife team, and today let's talk about wills. We're here to provide some estate planning basics for Catholics, and I'm here to learn right along with you. I confess I don't have a will, and so I'm really eager to learn from our guest, and so are many of you. This has surprised us by being by far the most popular topic in our series. I'd like to start the night by asking you to join me in a quick prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. A couple of housekeeping notes before I introduce Peter. This is the first time we're using Teams webinars for our ShareLife Speaker Series, so be merciful if we run into any technical issues. Secondly, questions for Peter. If you want to ask Peter a question, you can do so using the chat function. Don't use the Q&A function. We've disabled that, but you can put all of your questions into the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And lastly, if you miss anything, say you get distracted by a Leafs goal, we will be sending the recording to registered participants tomorrow. Now, let's introduce our esteemed guest, Peter Okonski. Peter has been involved in development and fundraising for over 25 years. He's managed over 70 planned giving campaigns for over 60 Canadian and American charities. Currently, Peter is responsible for planned giving at the Archdiocese of Toronto. Peter, take it away. Oh, Peter, I believe your microphone is muted.
So thank you, Chris, and welcome everyone. And right now I'm waiting for the file to upload on screen, and somehow nothing happens. Oh, it started. The process has started. So please be patient with us. Yes, here it is. Here it is. Um, Make it bigger and much more convenient. Okay. And well, so welcome to this webinar, and I hope it will be worth your time. So we are talking about estate plan. And usually the estate planning is being defined as the process of creating a plan to distribute your assets during your lifetime or upon death, to take care of the people and things important to you, and to do it in the least costly manner. So why would we do it? Well, first of all, we would like you to have peace of mind. And so I will talk a bit about peace of mind that comes with having a properly made will, and a huge relief you get once you have finalized this. Secondly, uh, I would like to protect yourself and your loved ones. So we will talk a bit about powers of attorney. And the third thought would be based on how to create your legacy, your personal legacy, and how the legacy planning fits into your estate plan as a whole. Before we start, I would like to emphasize the great importance of getting good advice. When we have personal issues that we wish to resolve, we normally ask advice from our loved ones, from our spouse, children, friends, other family members. But when it comes to something of, for example, financial nature, it only makes sense to get good advice from a qualified professional. And our office at the Archdiocese of Toronto Development Office has the list of advisors who signed up with us as Catholics, and so they understand our faith, of course, and we can provide you with a list of a couple of lawyers, for example, if you want to update your will or write a new one, or a few names of the financial advisors or accountants. This presentation, by the way, and it's a little disclaimer, this presentation has been prepared to inform and educate our audiences on the importance of estate planning. And so the information that we will impart will be useful, I hope. But uh, I must tell you that I am not engaged in rendering any legal, accounting, or other professional advice or services. So this session will provide you with general information. Um, so please remember what I said a moment ago, that we have the list of advisors, and if you send us an email, and at the end of the presentation, there's going to be a huge slide with our email address. We will provide you with a couple of names to choose from, and hopefully those professionals won't be located too far away from where you reside. So, what is a will? A will is a legal document that explains what should happen to an individual's personal property when he or she dies. Interestingly enough, 44% of Canadians do not have a proper will, but that means that 56% of us have a plan. And this is important. And these percentages have changed a lot during the COVID time. Before COVID, roughly between 5 and 10 years ago, the first percentage, the Canadians that did not have a proper will, was close to 60%. So a lot has changed because of COVID. Now, why are people reluctant to execute their wills? So that means to prepare their wills. First, there's procrastination, right? When we are young and healthy, nobody thinks about these things. Uh, some people think they don't need a will because they have a very simple estate. Uh, in some To some people, the concept of mortality is the one they want to avoid, and they don't want to talk or think of these things. And some people just haven't considered how severe the consequences might be to their loved ones. The cost is also an issue, but think about it. Even if it costs, I don't know, 1,000 or $1,200, compared with the value of your estate, this is a very insignificant percentage, and this expenditure may enhance the lives and make the lives of your loved ones much better in the future. So another question, and it's a good one: when do usually people update or write their wills? Well, at life-changing moments, so when there are children, for example, or when somebody, one of the loved ones dies, for example. And the second one, before traveling, because this is something unusual, and we are trying to be cautious. Um, well, what happens if someone dies without a will in Ontario? Well, it may be costly to his heirs or her heirs. Um, that, that person doesn't have any say who gets his or her assets. Uh, You don't decide who will look after your dependents, because all these things are being decided by the governmental procedures and policies. And it may bring unpleasant tax consequences, because nobody is going to pay attention of distributing the assets with this paramount rule of trying to save money and to distribute as much as possible. There are two different types of wills. The first one is formal or typewritten will, whether you're doing it by yourself or through the lawyer. And the second one is a holographic will, and this one is written by hand entirely. Now, if somebody dies without a will, as I mentioned, the assets are distributed according to the intestate succession rules, and they are governed by the Succession Law Reform Act. This act sets the rules by which the estate is being distributed in various situations. And so if somebody dies without a will, the spouse and children are first in line. If there is no spouse, then the children inherit everything. And if any of the children passed away, the children of the child will inherit his or her part of the estate. If there are no children, then grandchildren are beneficiaries. If there's nobody from the first three bullet points, then the parents become beneficiaries. And if they are no longer among us, then siblings, so brothers and sisters. And if any one of them passed away, their children will inherit their portion. So if there are no siblings, then of course nieces and nephews, and then more distant relatives. If there are no relatives, a person who died didn't have any family members, then the government gets everything. So we don't want this to happen, I guess. And there is a curious thing, because imagine if somebody if a person who died had tremendous debts, for example, the government inherits those debts. So it's kind of ironic. Um, we have some resources that will make your life easier as far as your estate planning is concerned. In the publication called Estate Planning Guide that was published by the Archdiocese of Toronto, there is a will planning checklist, for example. And in this checklist, there are lots of things, and all these things. When you go to the lawyer, he or she will ask you about all these tiny little things, about your bank accounts, about your liabilities, about your beneficiaries, who about the estate trustee, about the guardian for your children. So it's good to go through this list and get prepared before visiting the lawyer. This way, you will save the time on the visit, and you will be prepared, and there will be no need to come the second time, for example. So one of the points that I mentioned was the estate trustee. So who is this mysterious character of the estate trustee? The estate trustee, or also called executor, makes sure that after you pass away, the wishes in your will be fulfilled. The legal requirements are very simple. There is a minimum age of 18 and mental capacity. That's all. Uh, our advice is to name more than one, just in case one of them will refuse or won't be capable of providing this kind of service to you. So there is a question, who should be my estate trustee? Should it be my spouse, my children, other family members, perhaps friends, or perhaps a professional or a corporate trustee? Well, a professional would be your lawyer, for example, or your financial advisor. Corporate trustees are those trust companies that are now parts of the regular banks, and they are very professional, and they are bringing with them lots of experience, sometimes that goes back to the 19th century. And they are very heavily regulated, so they have to fulfill the wishes included in the will. They are being very tightly controlled. So let's spend a few minutes on the responsibilities of your estate trustee. First of all, your estate trustee identifies all the assets, so everything you have. He or she is determining their value, creates the inventory, is contacting all the beneficiaries, determines and pays all your debts, opens an estate bank account, and prepares and files your tax returns, so pays taxes, keeps track of all the financial transactions. And if your estate trustee is able to do it in a reasonable time and without mistakes, he or she will provide you with a prompt, efficient, accurate distribution of your estate. And that is exactly what you wish in your will. Uh, so, what character traits should we look for in our estate trustees? First of all, it should be a person who is well organized. Uh, this person also should be financially savvy. Doesn't have to be a wizard, but should be familiar with checks, with banks, should be able to distinguish debits from credits. So no professional level in the financial sector is necessary, but general financial knowledge would be very desirable. Somebody who lives close. If we are in Ontario, don't name your favorite niece who lives in British Columbia, because the state trustee sometimes has to be present in person to visit various places or to set up something. So it's good if that person lives really close to you. And that person should be trustworthy, of course, because your estate trustee is going to distribute everything you have. And also consider the age of the people that you nominate as your estate trustee. When you're in your 30s or 40s, uh, it's fine to name your uncle who's 60, for example, right? But when you are already in your 50s or 60s, try to name as your estate trustee somebody who is, let's say, one generation younger. For example, I love my uncle. He's now 85, and well, but I haven't nominated him as my estate trustee because I think I will live for another perhaps 10 or 20 years, and by that time he will be over 100. Is he going to be the best estate trustee that I could have? Well, it is debatable, definitely. So, a few final remarks on this subject. Please talk to the people, to the persons whom you wish to become your estate trustee. Find out whether they will agree. And if not, approach somebody else. name executors in succession or more than one to work together. It's up to you. It depends on how they interact with each other. So it's your decision. And if there are no candidates or the family dynamic suggests that perhaps there are potential disagreements on the way, uh, well, it's much better to consider a professional, so your lawyer or your financial advisor or a corporate trustee. This way, you will avoid various divisions within the family after you pass away. Uh, because in the end of the day, this is not about who is most likable and friendly, but who is the best qualified person to complete this task of fulfilling your wishes that you included in your will in a timely and efficient manner. Well, you will need your estate trustee once you pass away, but perhaps you will need help while you're still alive, uh, but you will be incapacitated, and that's why we have powers of attorney. There are two powers of attorney. One is for personal care, and the other one is for property. So power of attorney for personal care is allows you to appoint someone who will make decisions with respect to healthcare, life support, artificial feeding, and all medical measures. Because in case you are incapacitated and can't make these decisions yourself. Of course, we would like to those decisions to be in accordance with the teachings of our church. If you have any questions, talk to your pastor or visit the website of the Canadian Catholic Bioethics Institute at the U of T. They have a wonderful website with various difficult subjects tackled online. Uh, so always remember about your spiritual needs. And for example, you can include a request to receive the sacrament of the anointing of the sick when you're incapacitated in a hospital. Um, Power of attorney for property. This is a very powerful document, and it states that the attorney may do almost anything in respect to property on behalf of the donor that the donor could do him or herself if capable. Now, perhaps you've noticed that this word almost is highlighted in blue. And this almost means practically one thing. There is only one thing that your power of attorney cannot do, and it is updating or writing a new will for you. Otherwise, he or she can do absolutely everything. They can take a loan, a mortgage. They can max your credit card spending. They can do absolutely what you are able to do when you are okay. And if you give this document to a person, the original document to a person who you nominate as your power of attorney for property, and you're still okay, that person can start acting right away and spend all your money. And it will be fine. So it's worth to come up with some restrictions, to consider some things to be restricted. And for example, you may introduce in this document the clause that forbids your power of attorney to borrow money. Uh, The second one is good as well, that your power of attorney has to present the certificate, a certificate from a doctor attesting to your incapacity to manage your property. And the third one is very good as well, to keep the original document with your lawyer. So when you decide who your power of attorney for property should be, and that person has agreed to be your power of attorney for property, uh, show that person a copy of the document with the business card of your lawyer attached to it, and tell them, well, the original is at this law office. So whenever there is a need to use it, go to them and they will give you the original. So then when they appear on at the doorstep of the lawyer's office, the lawyer, of course, will ask them to present a certificate from a doctor that is attesting to your incapacity. So you're building these protection measures that will prevent any potential misuse of this very powerful document. Well, there are some other things that we should also consider. The first one is are the gifts of sentimental value. So these are the things like the old vase, an old chair, an old picture. They have no monetary value, but they may have sentimental value to somebody. So assign those things to your loved ones. First, of course, ask them whether there is anything that they would love to inherit from you. Because it happens very often that people don't think about these things because they have no monetary value. But because of the sentimental aspect, uh, some people may feel hurt because the other family members may consider these things, garbage, and they take them to the landfill. So consider it. The second thing to consider are hidden treasures. Well, we are all afraid that the robbers will come and they will steal our valuables. So many people are hiding jewelry or any other valuable things in very ingenious places. So to avoid the situation that these things will end up in the landfill, um, uh, perhaps share this information where you hid those treasures. Perhaps include attach it to the will, so your estate trustee will read it. You know that you had all the jewelry in the mattress, for example, and it really happened many times. So really considerate and remember about it, because very often these things end up in the landfill, unless, of course, you would like to make a future archaeologist very happy when he or she finds those little treasures in the layer from the 21st century. Um, Another thing is creation of the emergency system for those who live alone. And, usually it doesn't happen too often that people die at the same time. So then the remaining spouse or partner lives alone. And if he or she lives in a condo or in a rental unit, um, uh, and nobody checks upon that person, it's very easy to, for example, fall down, break your leg, or break any other bones, and be incapacitated, unable to move, and then it leads very often to a tragedy. So it is a really good advice to create the emergency system among friends, 3 or 4 friends who are checking up on each other every day, once or twice a day, by text, by email, by phone, whatever way you would choose. And if one of the group doesn't respond, this is an alert for the other ones, and they can go and check up on this person. So it's also good to remember to leave a message with your office, whether rental office or condo office, with the names of the people who have the right to check upon you. And of course, it would tour with the representative from the office to check whether you are okay. Um, and there's the final bullet point: funeral and burial wishes. Talk about them with your family, with your loved ones. Uh, if you want a funeral mass, tell them about it. If you want a Christian burial, tell them about it. Because quite often, how else would they know? Remember about all your spiritual needs and what is really important to you. And now I would like to invite you to listen to this story that is going to cover most of the points that we've covered so far. So, the main character in this story is William. William had a wife named Ethel and 2 daughters, Sheila and Kristen. And he prepared his will in 2005. So, Kristen, daughter number 2, was estranged from William since her early teenage years, but the sisters were very close. William named his first daughter, Sheila, as his estate trustee, and she was to inherit everything. So the legal phrase is 100% of residue. Residue is whatever is left in the estate after all the taxes and fees have been paid. So she would have inherited everything after William. And as a precaution, just in case Sheila died, William named his wife Ethel as the secondary estate trustee and beneficiary in case Sheila died. Uh, he also included this statement in his will. I state unequivocally that under no circumstances is any part of my estate to be transferred to my estranged daughter Kristen or to any of her descendants. This is a pretty strong statement. Now, let's have a look at the dates. So William prepared his will in 2005. His wife Ethel died just 2 years later in 2007, and Sheila, his daughter, 6 years after his wife in 2013. And then William lived without his wife and daughter Sheila for the next 5 years, and he hasn't updated his will. He didn't write a new will, and both people, so Sheila and Ethel, who were mentioned in the will as beneficiaries and estate trustees, were dead upon his death. So, in reality, his will became a useless, empty document. So the court had no other choice but to treat this case as if William has died without the will. And remember, according to the intestacy laws, uh, the spouse and children are first. And his second daughter, Kristen, was still alive. And guess what? She received 100% of inheritance. 100% of whatever was left in the estate after the taxes had been paid. So, and it was of course against William's wishes. And why didn't he update his will? Why didn't he include, for example, um, uh, a charity as a contingent beneficiary, for example? Nobody knows. And perhaps he didn't care anymore. But I would like you to remember this story. And when you have a will, to update it whenever there are any changes, because people are dying, new people are being born. It's and for example, when your children are already 35 or 40, you don't need that clause who's going to be their guardian, right? So remember that story. Well, so I mentioned this estate planning guide that we have at the Archdiocese of Toronto, and after this session, Chris is going to send you a link to the PDF version of this estate planning kit, and you will be able to download it and keep it on your computer for reference. We are doing this to save you the time, to help you get prepared. But first of all, the most important thing to get you thinking, because it's not so easy. It seems very simple and easy, but it's not once you start considering all the aspects. It won't happen within an hour or 3 days. It will take much longer. Um, Another good resource is our legacy newsletter that we publish in soft copy in PDF once a year, and it helps you to stay up to date with your estate plan, with charitable giving as well. And as we mentioned, charitable giving. Um, well, as the Catholics who live within the boundaries of the Archdiocese of Toronto, we have quite a few choices where to direct our uh, our um, our goodwill and our legacy gifts after we pass away. So, first of all, the first place that comes to mind, of course, is your parish. And the second one, perhaps, would be the Share Life. Share Life is helping thousands upon thousands of the most vulnerable people in our communities. Uh, there is also the Shepherd's Trust that is helping financially the retired priests. On the other end of the spectrum, we have St. Augustine's Seminary that is preparing and teaching the new generations of priests. And if somebody loves music, loves arts, there is St. Michael's Choir School. Of course, the Archdiocese itself has quite a few offices that also deserve our solid charitable backing. For example, Office of Catholic Youth, Office for Refugees, or a relatively new kid on the block, Saint Monica Institute. That is, and this is a lay equivalent of a seminary. So engaging us parishioners in the life of the archdiocese. Um, so think about it. There's a question: does the wording in my will matter? Of course it does, because the will contains our thoughts and our wishes, and we are framing these thoughts and wishes in words and sentences. So let's try to be very thorough, specific, and very clear. Uh, well, what if I would like to name my parish the will? Well, you wouldn't have guessed what's the correct legal name of your parish. Here it is: Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation for the Diocese of Toronto in Canada for the benefit of, and here comes the name of your parish. And the reason is very simple. Because this first, two lines, this is the name, the correct legal name of the Archdiocese. We were incorporated in 1845, so it was, 22 years before Canada was born, and there was even no Ontario at that time. And all the legacy gifts have to come through the Archdiocese, and then will be transferred immediately, 100% of them, to the parish. So, if, for example, if I'm attending, let's say, St. Patrick's Parish, it would be, Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation for the Diocese of Toronto in Canada for the benefit of St. Patrick's Parish, right? No, wrong, because guess what? We have 8 St. Patricks in our archdiocese, which is quite crazy. So we have to be more specific. We have to include perhaps the name of the town and the address, because imagine the situation when I am attending St. Patrick's in Mississauga, but during the summertime, I have a cottage in the north and I'm attending one of those St. Patrick's in the north. And then I'm making a bequest to just St. Patrick's, and my estate trustee is wondering which one did he have in mind. So be very specific, not only the name of the parish, but the address as well, to avoid any misunderstandings. Because your estate trustee won't be able to interpret your words and your thoughts contained in your will. It's forbidden. It would have to go to court, and the court would decide. Uh, Now let's consider smart giving, and it's true. It is really true that a good financial advisor can help you to choose the most tax efficient way to give, and this is pretty important. So, uh, for example, let's consider a gift of shares. So the current stock value is, so those shares are worth now $10,000. The original purchase price was 4,600. The difference is $5,400, and this is a taxable gain. And don't worry, only half of it amount is being taxed as your income, but it's still $2,700. And if you're in the high tax brackets, well over $1,000 will be spent on paying a capital gains tax. Well, look at this. If you donate shares through your will, you pay no taxable capital gains tax. So because you gave those shares in kind as shares and not as profits of sale, not as proceeds of sale. And it works the same way whether you're making this gift in the will, or if it's a current gift to your parish, to ShareLife, or to any part of the archdiocese. You're not paying capital gains tax. So that means that more of that sales proceeds, of the sales proceeds, will go to support a charitable cause. Retirement plans, whether RSP or RIFs. Well, it's always best to consult this type of gift with your advisor, with your financial advisor, because it depends on your particular situation. If somebody has, for example, a spouse, it makes sense to transfer the whole amount that is locked in the retirement funds directly to your spouse. No taxes paid, and it just increases the value of their retirement funds and income. But always consider and contact your tax advisor, your financial advisor in these situations. Gifting life insurance policies, a good idea. You can donate an existing policy, or you can donate a completely new policy to a charity, to any part of the Archdiocese. It can be affordable, tax efficient, and it will help you to make this special gift to your favorite part of the church. And if you have already included um, any part of the Archdiocese in your estate plans, let us know. We would love to thank you, and we would love to invite you to become Legacy Society members, Legacy Society of the Archdiocese of Toronto. And not only when you have already done it, even if you have an intention of doing it in not too distant future, also the same procedure. We would love to start thanking you, and all Legacy Society members receive a handcrafted cross blessed by the Archbishop. Um, they also get a personal letter and certificate that acknowledges the intention and invitations to Legacy Society events and other special events within the Archdiocese. And those Legacy Society events usually have the form of Mass and lunch with the Archbishop. And the last one we had in person was in 2019, because then for the next 3 years, there was COVID, so there were only masses in the intention of our Legacy Society members at Saint Michael's Cathedral. This year we are planning to have this event in September or October, and the venue will be St. Paul's Basilica. So a charming place, a place with a lot of history, and so if you only have such an intention, or have already have done it, please contact us. We would like to add your name to the list of names. So in this presentation, I tried as much as possible to help you realize how important it is to make an estate plan, to protect your independence, to create a legacy of clarity, and to make your wishes known, and to tell your Catholic life story by using your gifts to tell that story. And I guess this is the end of this session. So thank you very much for participating in this session. And let's see whether we have any questions. And here on the last slide, as promised, there is our email address, development@archtoronto.org, and my phone number. So let's see whether we have any questions. Chris, any news on this
Yes, we do
subject?
have some questions, Peter. And that contact information that you've shared there, we'll include that in the email that we send with the video of this event tomorrow. As I mentioned at the start, if you missed any part of the presentation, we will be sending that video off to everyone. For questions, we also remind you that the way to do so is through the chat function in Teams. If you could leave your questions there. One of the questions is regarding to the family story that you shared. Peter, the question is, if the first daughter's children, say she had children that survived, would they be able to inherit instead of the residual going to the disinherited daughter?
Um, yes, her portion would go to her children, but she didn't have children.
Okay, so
Mhm.
that's what would happen
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
circumstance. Okay. Another question. Um, for a power of attorney for personal care, this is kind of a two-parter here, so follow with me. Is there any professional who would do this for a fee, since it can be resource intensive? And
Yes.
a second part of that, would clergy from the Archdiocese of Toronto be possible candidates, since they would more likely to be aligned with one's values as a Catholic?
Okay. So when powers of attorney are usually prepared by the lawyer together with your will. So it's a part of the package, right? And you can specify, inform the lawyer what conditions have to be included in the power of attorney for personal care. And to get the a good advice, uh, I would suggest to consult the estate planning guide that I mentioned a few times during the presentation. I think on page 22, there is a sample wording of that power of attorney. Also, consult your pastor. This is your spiritual advisor, and if you have any questions regarding various aspects that you're not too certain about, clear it with your pastor or other or other clergy at your parish, and then to inform, then remember to inform your lawyer about it, what you really want to be, what text, what conditions should be included in that document that the lawyer will prepare for you. Now, some people have very long documents that are pretty restrictive. And, I can only imagine how much time and aggregation will be spent on trying to read all sometimes a few pages of different restraints. So for example, I chose a totally different approach, and in my power of attorney for personal care, I just named my wife and my son without any conditions because I trust them. So choose, first of all, choose the people you trust. Choose the people that you are, somehow aligned. You're thinking using the same frequencies, so you understand each other and you trust each other. Then not that many restrictions will be needed in the document itself, and you will have a peace of mind because you trust them, right? So this is my take on the powers of attorney for personal care.
Okay. Um, Another question, and these are kind of hand in hand, and it's something that I was wondering about too, Peter. It's about the will needing to be attested by a lawyer. Um, would a handwritten will be valid? Um, and then related to that, I'm sure you've seen some of these online tools out there, like Willful is one of them, that are supposed to help you prepare your will yourself. So kind of in a similar vein to handwriting it, I suppose, but with an online tool. And one of the people who asked the question said, well, let's say you have simple assets. All you have is a bank account, a house, registered plans,
Yeah.
no complications with your heirs. I guess the big question is the lawyer really necessary? Is what a lot of us want to
You
know.
know what? My approach, my personal approach is I would like to have a real peace of mind. That's why I went to the lawyer, uh, because it's very easy to make a mistake. So imagine, for example, a very silly mistake. Uh, I would like to give $50,000, and in brackets, $5,000 to my niece, of whatever name. And now, what did he have in mind, whether 50 or $5,000, right? And when you write something yourself, there is a big chance you will not notice it, that there is a mistake. That's why when I'm writing anything in the office, I'm always asking somebody to read it and to check whether it makes sense, whether there are no logical, clashes within the text, right? Because I wouldn't notice it. Plus, uh, many other mistakes can be made. For example, if you forget, for example, that um, that if somebody becomes the witness of your will, so is signing as a witness, that person cannot be your beneficiary because otherwise, if he's listed as a beneficiary, the will is invalid, right? If you forget about it, you're writing yourself, you're very happy, and you have a peace of mind. But then, upon your death, your loved ones find out that you died pretty much intestate, right? So there are those tiny little things, and when we are in, and there's always some kind of a stress when we are doing something very important, and then it's much easier to make a mistake. So to really have a real peace of mind, uh, it's a one-time expense going to the lawyer, right? And as a value of your estate, it's pretty much meaningless, this one-time expense. So isn't it better to have it done by the professional? Plus, there is one more aspect that I forgot to mention. In time, many of us will gradually lose our testamentary capacity because our minds will just go away slowly. So and then somebody may question whether this person had testamentary capacity when he or she prepared that will. When you go to the lawyer always makes not mistakes, makes notes, takes notes about the client, and especially when the client is of certain age, let's say over 60 or 70, they make sure to make those notes very thoroughly. So they are attesting, they are analyzing whether this person is of good mental health. So then you're avoiding a possibility that somebody is going to question the validity of your will, because they were mentioned in the previous will, but in the last one they were not. And it happens. It happens quite frequently.
Okay, so in other words, it's something that is legal if you do it on your own, if you do it right,
Yes.
but there's many different things that can go wrong, and so it's not advisable. Am I
Yes.
summarizing that well?
Yes. Yes. I think to have a real peace of mind, it's better to go to the lawyer. And it's a one-time
Okay.
expense.
hmm Um, Now, even if we do go through a lawyer to ensure that it's approved, but we want to write it ourselves, do you have a template of a will or power of attorney that you could share? Is that part of the estate planning guide?
No, no, no. No, we don't have the text, and everyone's situation is different, right?
Okay.
So it would be difficult to, and there are outlines, and you can find them online. What are the parts of the will, right? And what
Mhm.
goes inside those parts. But I wouldn't go for. We don't have any template for the will.
Got
So
it.
use the ones that are. If somebody wants to use a template, there are quite a few available on the market, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, related, so uh, not really about the will, but the power of attorney, does that need to be notarized and attested?
Well, it's a part of the will. It's signed by the lawyer and witnessed by the witnesses. So the will and the powers of attorney. It's the one package that you're
Okay.
preparing upon this visit at the lawyer.
Okay. Another question. What is a probate?
Well, the probate is that the estate tax, right? So in Ontario, the first $50,000 of the worth of the estate is not taxable, so it's without tax. Anything above $50,000 is taxed at 1.5%. So
Okay.
that's the situation, and this it changed in 2020, I think, because before then, the first $50,000 was taxed at the 0.5%. But then they decided, hey, it's ridiculous. And they were right. Right? So now the first $50,000 is tax free. And it happens that people have very small estates, so it only makes sense, right?
This is a good question here from Eric. Does a person's wishes respecting their funeral or burial have to be followed if written into the will? So, like, what if the request isn't Christian? I'm assuming this is pertaining to someone else's will. So, like, you've got a request to I don't know, dispose of the ashes in a way that doesn't correspond to church teaching, or maybe they want something in the funeral that the church isn't, willing to do. What are I guess the obligations there when it might conflict with what the church is requiring of us?
I am certain that at Catholic cemeteries, they will not do anything that is against the Catholic doctrine or Catholic policies regarding burials and funerals, right? They will not allow it. And at other cemeteries, it depends. I guess it depends how whether the requests are outrageous or not, and how outrageous they are. I have no idea. I have never read about any case that really goes beyond any established norms.
Now, if I'm a power of attorney and a request has been made that I don't agree with because of my faith, do I still have to legally follow it?
Well, first of all, the person who asks you to be his or her power of attorney should have revealed in the very beginning, to have a very serious conversation with you and cover all the points that he or she wanted to include in the power of attorney, right? Uh, so
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
um, so it's a matter of uh, agreeing because you agree with that person, right? If that person told you right from the very start and you thought it was against the Catholic faith, you didn't agree to become her or his power of attorney personally, right? So now these are very delicate issues, and the key to a successful relationship, even though at some point perhaps there will be no communication, right, because of the very nature of this document, is to have a heart-to-heart discussion and to make sure that both of you are of the same mind.
Hmm.
So that's why it's so important to talk about these things with whether with your estate trustee, potential estate trustees, or powers of attorney, to make sure that they agree with what you would like them to do in case something happens.
Okay, we've got just a couple of questions left, and so we can do like a lightning round here, Peter. This one is again going back to the question: is the lawyer absolutely necessary? Is
That
the
was
lawyer absolutely necessary if if I own multiple properties, is there any distinction there about the legal requirement to have a lawyer, or is it the same if I had one or no properties?
Okay, so we are talking about the will written by the lawyer, right? If you have a complicated estate, yes, do it through the lawyer, and the lawyers are very well versed in all kinds of financial arrangements, whether trusts or partnerships, whatever it is, and this way you are being served by the professional. If you think you can do it yourself, well, it's always good to consult with somebody to make sure that you are not omitting anything. In case you have properties, for example, here and abroad, well, very often people choose to have two wills. One will covers the property, and the assets held in the foreign country, the other one here, right? But then it's good to have a lawyer, because by mistake you may use the common phrase, I invalidate all my previous wills, right? And perhaps by this you will invalidate your will that you prepared just 10 days ago for your property abroad, right? So it has to be phrased differently, that you have both wills right now, one for your property overseas and one for the property here. And this way you're protecting yourself from invalidating one of them. So there are all those tiny aspects that are so easy to omit if you if because everything looks so cool on paper, but in the we are usually, as I mentioned, when we prepare something important, we tend to be a bit nervous, and then all kinds of problems may be born. This is my take on this.
Okay. Again, a couple more questions, and in the spirit of the lightning round, I do want to get to everybody's questions. This one, I'm not sure what this is. Do you have lawyers within this organization specialized in Henson's Trust? I'm not familiar with Henson's Trust.
Hansen's Trust, yes. So Hansen's Trust is this is there are specialized lawyers for this. This is for children who are or dependents who are disabled, and a special there is a special trust called Hansen Trust that allows you um, to to not lose the government benefits, and to add uh, some 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 money to their income without jeopardizing those benefits. Uh, I'm not sure. I will have to check, because I know that in the past we had. I have to check whether they are still on that list. Those specializing in Hansen Trust. So if please send me an email to development@archtoronto.org, and I will follow up with you. I will check with the lawyers first, and I will provide you with the answer.
Okay. Um, One person's commenting here, in law, an executor should, but is not obligated to follow a testator's expressed funeral or burial wishes. Does that sound correct to you? That they should, but
I,
they're not.
I think that I totally agree that they should, if there is nothing unlawful or outrageous about them, and I'm not certain whether they don't have to, because I'm just not certain.
Mhm.
I I'm not.
Okay. Fair enough. Is there a shortage of lawyers like other professions right now? Is it
No,
getting
no,
harder to
no,
find a
no,
lawyer?
no,
Okay,
definitely
good.
no.
Good, good, good. And then I'm gonna um uh two more questions here. And now I'm gonna cut it off. No more questions after these two. So Jojo is asking, so how do I update my existing will if only names will be changed? So like I'm thinking about this case with William. Say now daughter number one, she's in
Yeah,
my bad books, and
yeah,
daughter number two, I've reconciled and I want to switch them up.
yeah.
Do I need to get a lawyer involved if I'm just changing
Yes,
names?
yes. And you don't have to write a new will. You can make this update through a simple codicil. A codicil is a one-pager, short information, short, easy change, right, in the will that is making, a change to one or two points, and it costs very little to make this change.
And do you know what that approximate cost would be?
I don't know. I can imagine that perhaps $100 or $200, but
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't made any codicils yet.
Okay. So I'm going to cut off the questions there because I said I would. However, we are providing the contact information for Peter, so you can fire away your other questions once we send that off to you. So you'll be able to ask all the other questions that you have, or maybe that you weren't sure that you should ask. He's a very friendly guy. Uh, Definitely reach out to Peter. He'll help you out. Um, uh, and also, Peter, as promised, we will send the estate planning guide to everybody who participated in the presentation today. Thank you so much, Peter. I mean, you really did, for someone like myself who doesn't have a will, made it very clear and simple, and definitely I'm leaving thinking like this is something that I should prioritize and not procrastinate any longer. So thanks very much,
Thank
Peter.
you very much.
Extremely insightful.
Thank you, Chris.
Um, I would also like to thank my colleague Jennifer Lazo, who is responsible for every detail of tonight's event and the last speaker series that we had on two different platforms. Jennifer has done a wonderful job managing the speaker series, and she has another event coming up very soon on June 20th, and the topic is going to be palliative care. Father Matthew Durham is the executive director of Journey Home Hospice. That's a center for palliative care treatment for the homeless population in Toronto. He's going to be speaking about Journey Home and other initiatives to improve access and awareness for palliative care. And the work that he's doing is supported by your gift to Share Life. Registration for this event will be open soon. Watch for the email from us, an announcement on social media, and you can sign up for that. In the meantime, I wanted to let you know about another significant date, and that's June 4th. June 4th is Share Life Sunday. Share Life Sunday is our opportunity to unite as Catholics from across the Archdiocese to support the work of 40 Catholic agencies. You can make your Share Life contribution at your parish on Share Life Sunday or anytime online. And thank you so much to those of you who have already done so. I've seen firsthand the work of Share Life agencies, and they couldn't bring hope and healing to those in need without you. You are making an impact in your community, so thank you. And thank you for joining us. That's all for tonight. Go Leafs, go. Good night.
Thank you.